Any good stories from the road?
Pipe up.
I wish we'd gotten to see a little bit more out of our punter.
I'm starting to puke.
It makes my stomach hurt.
I thought he was going to die.
I'm starting to throw up in my mouth a little bit.
He's on the probiotics.
Is Georgia playing the 1985 Bears this weekend or what?
A lot of Todd talk.
Rat poison proof.
They're mongoose.
We will not be hunted at the University of Georgia. I can promise you that. The hunting that we do will be done from us going the other direction.
Hey guys, welcome in. We got a guest. We got a tiger in the doghouse. Shay Dixon from the Bengal Tiger joining Jake Rowe, Palmer Times on West Blankenship. It is SEC Championship week, guys, and we've seen Georgia take on LSU, and a few of these now. The Dogs have taken one of them, but other than that, it's been a pretty lopsided LSU butt whooping. We'll see what we think about this year's edition of Georgia and LSU. But Palmer, Jake, I'll start with you guys just because a lot of the people watching this are used to us talking. What's been your biggest takeaway from the last time, since the last time we spoke and heard from Kirby and got to hear from Ladd and Zion Logue? Anything changing your mind about how this game looks?
That's you, Palmer. I hadn't talked to anybody.
I mean, we really haven't talked to anybody either. I mean, we talked Monday night on the show, and since then we've heard from Javon Bullard and Zion Logue Tuesday. Playoff, rankings are out.
Playoffs?
Not sure that much has changed. I know the conversation is that Georgia and Michigan and probably TCU are in regardless of this weekend's results, and USC has to win to be in, while Ohio State and Alabama sit at home. I don't love that for the college football playoff rankings. I don't love rewarding somebody who's sitting at home, but that doesn't matter to Georgia. They're going to be playing this weekend and playing for something that I know is big to them. And having seen some LSU clips, I know it's big to them as well. Saw something that somebody said this was their national championship. So Georgia's got a lot to play for with an SEC championship. LSU playing for their national championship.
Shay, is that accurate? Is that the vibe right now in Baton Rouge?
I can barely keep my thoughts together after that intro video. We don't have an intro to our podcast, and now I'm realizing a lot was left on the table there.
It's all downhill from here. Don't worry.
Oh, man, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
I was jotting down notes the whole time. Look, I think Texas A&M treated LSU like it was their Super Bowl. And you saw how that result turned out. I think LSU needs to obviously win this game to even get to a New Year's Six Bowl at this point, which had they beat A&M, this game was lagniappe. If you lost, you were still going to a New Year's Six. It wasn't the end of the world. And I think just because they had overachieved so much compared to what everyone had thought and kind of where they would be this year, maybe a 6 to 7 win team, that getting to 10 wins in the regular season against A&M, would have been sort of icing on the cake. And now all of a sudden you're going into this game thinking, man, we need to get a dub, because if not, we're on a 2-game losing streak going into a bowl. You don't want to end the year on a 3-game losing streak, certainly. But national championship, sure. I mean, I guess they've played in one recently. They had to go through Georgia to get there. But I think more than anything, they're trying to just get off the mat right now. I think finally they kind of ran out of gas. And for me, that's one of the biggest storylines is how does LSU kind of bounce back from what was a very lackadaisical performance over in College Station.
What went wrong?
I don't think they brought any effort and they didn't execute. And it clearly looked like for the first time A&M had a lot of guys back. A-Chain played. A number of their other guys who had missed games for different reasons played. So they were not at full strength, but obviously clicking at full strength and also executing. And they brought it right at LSU, man. They ran it all over LSU from start to finish. I mean, Devin A-Chain had carried the ball more than 3 times in his career. He's been a starter for 3 years. He carried it like 37 for like 280 something, and they just were like, we don't have to do anything else. You just run the football all day. That was a surprise, I think, to people who have watched LSU this year, because as they have turned in a really good season above expectations, it's been the defense that's carried them. So to see the alarm bell sounding in College Station over the defense was a little bit of a worry spot there at the end. But look, kudos to A&M. They came to play. And very clearly, even in the losses this year, LSU has fought. They've been competitive. In that one, it was just clear they were just getting pushed around from the start.
Jake,
look at me. I was going to jump in there because, Shay, I don't know if this was – it looked like A&M actually kind of finally played like a talented football team in that game. I mean, I'm not saying LSU went out there and played really well, but it didn't like they went out there and like peed down their leg either. It's just like A&M was like, all right, for the first time maybe since the Alabama game, we'll show up and play like we've got some talent. And, that's kind of what happened in that game. But I think there's something to the running out of gas thing because – I mean, you go from that Tennessee game and the fight and the battle that team had to go through to win each week to get, like you said, get off the mat, get himself in a position to win an SEC championship. That had to kind of take its toll, I would imagine.
Yeah, no doubt. And look, I think it's an indication of really, I can tie this into this game. This is sort of where these two programs are at right now. When the Orgeron era ended and the Kelly era began, they went to a bowl game with 39 scholarship players and had a wide receiver playing quarterback. So they got run by Kansas State. I think I did it the other day, the math. In the final game, 60-something% of the guys who started were transfers or true freshmen. So they had to patch this together quickly. You look at Georgia, a team that took no transfers this offseason. LSU led the country in transfers, and they're starting at almost every position just because the roster was essentially gutted, in the final couple of years of the Orgeron era. So Brian Kelly obviously wants to get it to where Kirby has. You got a long way to go, but I think Georgia is sort of a representation of how to have true stability in this modern era of the transfer portal and everything else. You get gutted by the NFL draft, much like LSU did after the national championship season. Turn right around. Georgia doesn't take any transfers, and here they are back in the SEC championship undefeated. LSU is the opposite end of that spectrum. They got to the SEC championship by patchwork and a bunch of transfers from, let's be real, a lot of guys who wouldn't have been recruited by an LSU or Georgia coming out of high school and played elsewhere. And they said, hey, look, we'll take experience. And they banked on that. They signed only 15 high school guys. Like I said, didn't have a lot coming back. So you're sort of in the beginning stages of the rebuild process here for Brian Kelly. It's just that they didn't think they'd be in Atlanta. They thought that they'd be a 6-7 win team. So I kind of feel like a game like A&M was coming. They are not the most talented team. You could argue the starters compared to A&M's where A&M's got more talented starters if you're going by star rankings. But this isn't your normal LSU of the past 10 to 15 years. It's just they got gutted a couple of years ago and they're trying to rebuild, but now they show up to Atlanta in year one and you celebrate it, but you also go up against what I feel like is the yin to your yang right now of kind of where you want to be against Georgia.
Yeah, it almost feels like the tables have turned a little bit from 2019. I'm not going to make the proclamation like everyone made about Tennessee earlier this year that Georgia is 2019 LSU or anything like that, but I think it is a great point, Shay, that Georgia is where LSU wants to be. And I think LSU, both times that Coach O played against Kirby's teams, you looked at LSU then, you said, man, that's where you want your program to go. Shay, I'm curious. I know the administration is ready to move on from Coach O, just strike him from the record, right? He was never there. I'm curious, though, with all the transfers, everything that changed and turned over, what's been the most lasting legacy of Coach O that is still helping LSU right now?
That they won a national championship in 2019. You still got that trophy, still got the Heisman sitting around there, a number of awards they won that year. So recruiting wise, you watch all their videos of kids on their official visits or unofficial visits. They're posing with the Heisman, posing with the Natty Trophy, all of the different sort of Davey O'Brien, everything that Joe Burrow scooped up. And that's thanks to Coach O. That was a team he put together. Let's be real. Obviously, it fell apart in the couple of years after. But again, national championship, that is the lasting mark. And I think the good thing for Brian Kelly here is that the last three coaches at LSU, from Saban to Les Miles to Coach O, all of them won a national championship. So you're set up here with recruiting the state of Louisiana. You can dip into states like Georgia and Florida and Texas and get a couple guys here and there. and field really good rosters. And as long as you kind of catch some breaks and are coached well, odds are in your favor that you're going to end up in a playoff scenario and a chance at a natty.
You're talking about that 2019 LSU team, that Georgia-Tennessee week, Wes. You brought that up. That's kind of my litmus test now, I think, for knowing whether people really know what they're talking about when they talk about football. Because, listen, that Tennessee team's awesome. I mean, Shay saw them up close, I'm sure, there in Baton Rouge, and it's a really good football team. But you start comparing offenses to that 2019 LSU team. I mean, you better have some really, really good stuff on your side, and Tennessee was nowhere close. So, that's kind of my litmus test there. And as far as that 2019 team, because it was special, maybe the greatest team we've ever seen with that 15-0 thing. And Georgia actually has a chance to get there too. So, but in a lot less flashy fashion for sure.
Yeah, it's nowhere near as flashy. A lot more up in the air, a lot more nerve-wracking at times, or just frustrating. I mean, there's moments with this team that you wonder if they're just looking ahead to the ice bath. I don't know. But that said, they're still pretty big favorites against LSU. I know we'll get to our predictions probably at the end of this. I'm still not convinced that LSU can't make things annoying or just flat out upset Georgia this week. Just based on seeing what happened in Atlanta last year, Georgia already kind of had it in the back of its mind. We got a playoff spot reserved. And I know that the emphasis is let's get back to Atlanta. Let's get that number 1 spot so we can pick where we want to play. But maybe LSU does want this one a little bit more than people think.
Well, it helps that they don't have to deal with Jameson Williams or John Mechie or Bryce Young. I guess this is as good a time as any. Shay, what's going on with Jaden Daniels? What do you expect from him as far as ankle goes?
Yeah, look, he's been banged up in a number of games this year and sort of just played through it. One game, he had to sit out the rest of the game, but he played the next game. I think he sat out a couple of final drives of the fourth quarter in a game. But he came back against A&M, finished it out. He actually left that game twice and came back. But Kelly said it's not a high ankle sprain. And he said their sort of green light comes on, early in the week if you're just able to, stand up, on your toes, move straight up, because he said that's the area the ankle's sort of affected. My guess is they're taping it up and he'll be good to go, and he won't be 100%. Now
he won't go anywhere near a needle, I don't think, right?
We're Friday Night Lights in this, boys. You don't know how serious this is, SEC championship. No, I think he'll play. I don't think he'll miss. I don't think he'll sit out. I think the storyline becomes, you look at him this year, he's run for more yards than McIntosh has. The point of him being in the game is for him to be able to run around and make some things happen and extend plays and get you some first downs when he's scrambling. If any of that's limited, then the whole idea of him being the best option might not be it anymore. So I'm curious. And look, it may be one of those things where we've been through this a few times this year with Jaden, where it was he didn't practice a couple of days and he does, and ends up playing the whole game. So I think he'll play, but we'll see.
So if he is limited, and this is something that we've talked about a little bit, who else is there for that LSU offense? Because like you said, they were carried so heavily by the defense. Obviously, Josh Williams is coming back off of injury, which gives a boost there. But outside of Jaden, who is there that has to step up for this LSU offense?
You look at their 2 best receivers are Kayshon Boutte and Malik Neighbors, and they've both scored 1 touchdown this season. They lead the team in yards and all of that, but their offense, which I think is I haven't heard many people talk about it. I think it's going to be one of the determining points of the game if LSU's offense has any success at all to even move the football, is they're very methodical. This Denbrock Kelly offense, you don't take a lot of risks. You're multiple tight ends. You kind of just move the ball down the field. You put yourself in manageable situations. They're not an explosive play team. When they got behind against A&M, no one thought they were going to come back because they're not capable of any big play. I think they're one of their biggest plays of the year is a 30-something yarder. For real. This is Tennessee. They are very much grind you out all the way down the field, get into the red zone, and then start running the football from there. And with Jaden and the running backs and they get in, Georgia's the best red zone team in the country. Like, if that's your plan to get down to the red zone and have success, then you might be kicking a lot of field goals. They don't even have that great of a field goal kicker. So I'm curious if there's any way that once LSU crosses midfield, if they can't start hitting Butte or Neighbors or, some of your really athletic playmakers for kind of big time plays that can go for a touchdown from there. LSU's been good in the red zone this year. They haven't faced anybody like Georgia, who almost welcomes you getting into the red zone.
You sound really confident, Shay. So I know that's comfort to a lot of Georgia fans' ears that those struggles are presenting themselves right now for LSU. On the flip side, though, y'all have a lightning bolt in gold and purple in Harold Perkins Jr. What's it been like to watch him come on the scene from a recruit to actually being the guy in this defense?
Yeah, it's been fun to watch. I mean, boy, he is a Micah Parsons type of player. He's just so instinctual. He's so much more athletic than everyone else. Brian Kelly said in fall camp, when someone asked him about Harold Perkins, he goes, the only way to explain him is he's just different from the rest of the linebackers. Like, they've all got talent, but he's got something that's head and shoulders above it. And we saw kind of snippets of it as the year goes on. They've done a really good job. Like, he started out on special teams, and then they put him at just edge rusher, and then they put him in terms of kind of more of a backer responsibility and kind of having to manage different gaps. And it's been able to let him kind of get more and more confidence and understand the speed of the game and what he has to do. And he's far from perfect, but boy, he can make some big plays. There have been A&M. I mean, A&M took him out of the game. I mean, they essentially made sure they had someone on him at all times, a couple hands, and they ran to the boundaries. So it'll be interesting to see.
Arkansas did not take him out of the game.
Arkansas invited him into the game.
Well, after the game, Brian Kelly said, and it's amazing because he had the flu. And I said, well, now so does all of Arkansas's offense, evidently.
Yeah.
After hanging out with him all game.
Yeah, no doubt.
I spoke with David Pollock earlier this week, and he is impressed with Perkins, to say the least.
You're going to watch 40. Harold Perkins Jr. This dude is an absolute freak show. The next, whatever you want to call it. If you want to watch a guy and go, that's the next superstar on defense in college football, Harold Perkins Jr. is that. Like, he rushes the passer. He spies quarterbacks. Like, he's all over the field. He can fly.
Ooh,
fly.
I didn't know what was about to come out of DP's mouth there for a minute.
He's the kind of guy that says, like, flip it instead of the actual F word, so I wasn't too worried about it. But, yeah it is interesting, a tale of two games there, seeing how A&M was able to just run and take him out of the game. A little bit of inexperience maybe showing itself where he took himself out of some plays. I wonder how quickly a young guy like that can put that one behind him, see what A&M did, and see if Georgia tries to do it again, if he's able to kind of react in the game and identify, okay, maybe I don't need to pursue this heavy because Georgia's trying to fool me.
Yeah, no, I think the worry there becomes he's trying to go out and make plays after he got silenced a week ago. So they'll have to reel him in as best he can. But yeah, that I said it from the start when he started making these plays. Since we're in the recruiting industry to a degree, that's what a 5-star looks like. If you're going to be putting 5 stars on a kid, that's him.
What would you say is the reason that LSU is right here? Like, what's the strength? What's the area that Georgia probably has to worry about?
I just think that they execute well to a large degree. They don't turn the ball over a ton, which they did at A&M. And they fight, which sounds just weird to say, but like
no.
SEC, when you're in a lot of close games, like we saw with A&M, A&M's been in a lot of close games this year. They just didn't know how to win. LSU's got it ingrained in them that when they get into those late games, they don't look phased. And they 2-point conversion Bama and OT for a win. They've gotten road wins against Florida and, Auburn, who wasn't that great this year, but it was a tough battle. Ole Miss was undefeated until they played LSU. They just get into some games. And
that Arkansas game was a grind.
The Arkansas game was a grind for sure. They've gotten behind in a lot of games. I'm talking 14-0, 17-0, 20-0.
Right, yeah.
And come back and won. So I think they just have this sort of – they operated for – I'll say this. They operated for a long time of we're better than people think. So we'll just keep fighting. They don't expect us to win this game anyways. After they beat Bama, it suddenly became, whoa, you're SEC West champion. Now Arkansas's hunting you. A&M wants to spoil your season. So I don't know if they handled that whole element well. They were better in the underdog role, but they'll be back in that one this weekend, no doubt.
Yeah, I was going to say, so how do you get that underdog mentality back? Because we talked to a couple of the Georgia players, and they were asked about it on the teleconference, both on the teleconference and in person. You know, how have they embraced being the target on their back? How do you, if you're LSU, how do you get that underdog mentality, that spoiler mentality back to put the target on Georgia?
I think Brian Kelly will be good at that. I look at his past 5 years dating back to Notre Dame. That A&M loss was the first loss he had in November. So he's got a way of dialing in his teams. I mean, he had won 18 straight games in November. So I think that they'll be dialed in this week. I don't think they overlooked A&M. I just don't think they brought any energy. I think they almost just thought we can go out there and kind of keep doing what we're doing. And that wasn't good enough, and lesson learned. So yeah, I don't think they'll have any trouble getting up for this game. They know they have to, as Brian Kelly said it, when he was like, when we look at Georgia, just like we did when we played Alabama, the margin for error is so thin that if we're not dialed in and y'all don't bring it, there's no chance. And if you're dialed in on every play, one play at a time, you can put yourself in a position to potentially win it, which they did. On the last play of the game in overtime. So I think they'll be dialed in. Georgia's the best team they'll have faced, but it will very much be kind of one of those, we're focused on us, we're focused on executing. And if we do that, then we'll make it a game. If not, then talent will override our deficiencies.
A crew that always executes for us is Breaking Tea. Got a link to the Breaking Tea store in the description of this show. Bennett Bowers 22, the mailman, all the tight end love for Darnell and Brock, and of course Chris Smith in the Savage pads, which he donned in the Dogs' first game at Mercedes-Benz Stadium this season. All the apparel, all the merch. You need a new Georgia tee. Holidays coming up. Jump on over to Breaking Tea. So, Ro, you've kind of discussed this a little bit in your talking points, looking position by position, the key matchups. The offensive line of LSU, a little bit young, inexperienced on the edge, but they got a lot of experience and grit up the middle. Georgia's defense, kind of the inverse, not getting a ton of pressure from the edge rushers, but right up the middle is as scary as it gets. How do y'all see that battle unfolding in Atlanta on Saturday?
Well, I mean, I know as somebody who has had a chance to kind of watch LSU here recently, I do see what you're getting at there. Georgia is definitely, with LSU being an experienced at tackle, I do think that kind of plays into Georgia's maybe relative weakness up front. But I also think, Michael Williams is a guy that has really come on for Georgia and can kind of give those young tackles problems. I haven't just seen it as an issue I haven't seen the young tackles as much of the issue as just communication bus and missing, stunts and slants and, kind of putting themselves in a position where, that one play, that 1 2-yard loss or that one no gain on first down kind of derails their drive. Like Shay was talking about, it's kind of a methodical team. So, I don't think there's like one true or area where you're just like, man, they suck, but I don't think it's very good on the whole. It's just not, cataclysmically awful.
Kenneth Herron down here saying that LSU is going to play the game of their lives. So we'll see about that. Maybe if they get it done on the in the trenches, the game of their lives will be good enough to beat the Dogs.
Yeah,
what kind words you have for LSU, Jake?
What's that?
I said, what kind words you have for LSU?
Oh, I mean,
they don't suck.
They don't suck. It's not the worst O-line I've ever seen.
And Jake appreciates the party atmosphere and the passion.
It is a party, man. I'll say it's a party when LSU comes to Atlanta. And I experienced this at a young age. I think it was 2003. when they had the rematch, that Saban team that had the close game early in the year and then comes back and just destroys the Dogs. I didn't have a drink poured on me on the MARTA, but I had several 4-letter words poured on me figuratively. They were not David Pollock cuss words. They were real dog cuss words.
See, I've always had I knew this old LSU fan from back home. I can't remember. He was from somewhere in Louisiana and moved to South Georgia when he was a teenager or whatever. He always told me that LSU fans, the way LSU fans lived was they wanted to come in town, they wanted to whip your ass, but they didn't want you to be upset about it. That they wanted to beat you. They wanted to beat you up.
I didn't meet the same ones apparently.
Yeah, but they don't want you to be upset about it because they want to have a good time with you after it's over with. So
yeah.
So Jake, I don't know if that's accurate, Shay. I haven't been to Red Stick as often as a lot of people have. But
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of hate between a lot of SEC schools, and I've never, in my 18 years being around it all, have experienced any LSU fans who dislike Georgia fans. So
that's what I was going to say.
I feel like there's like an agreement here of a couple cool college towns. You only have to play once in a blue moon.
Yeah.
You both hate a lot of the same teams.
Right. You both got a lot of common enemies. That makes you friends. So, yeah, I think it'll be a fun weekend in not the Georgia, whatever.
There will be a lot of bonding and kind of feeling out how each fan base feels about Hugh Freeze, I can imagine, in some Atlanta bars and lines for Bud Lights at the palace that Arthur Blank built. I can assure you of that.
So, hey, before we let you go, I got one question for you about Baton Rouge. Let's say I'm a Georgia fan and I'm about to have to pass through there and I got to hit one spot. I got to go get a drink at a spot and I got to go eat at a spot. Where do you go? Where do you go in Baton Rouge? You got to say you got to go one spot.
So Baton Rouge obviously set up a bit different from Athens, where you've got everything sort of on a strip. I would say the Chimes, if y'all haven't been there, because it's right on campus. It's a staple. It's been there 50, 60 years, if not more. Huge place, rooftop kind of view of campus. And yeah, that's kind of the staple. Everybody says if you have to start somewhere, you would go there. It's one of the only restaurants that's kind of on campus. So you take it.
All right. So what do you think is going to happen in this game on Saturday? And I guess you got to get out of here.
I think I think it'll be closer than people think, and people think it's going to be a 17-point game. So I think I could see it being a game that looks like a lot of Georgia games where they sort of seemingly get bored with the whole concept of it and are ready to just get through it. And you kind of on the second half and realize LSU's not stopping your run, and you win by a couple touchdowns or 17, and you just move on. I think it'll be a double-digit win for Georgia. I'd be surprised if it weren't.
Are we giving our picks tonight too, or are we going to hold off, guys?
Well, I just figured we'd get Shay out of here since he had to go, because I know we still got to we got stocks or chopping wood.
We're chopping wood tonight. We're not going to make
tonight. So I don't want to chop wood all over Shay and get wood chips all over his nice clothes. So,
yeah, that is a nice hoodie that he's got.
Splinters everywhere.
Shay Dixon from the Bengal Tiger. Thank you so much, Shay. We will see you on Saturday. Safe travels.
I'll be there.
Hope you enjoy yourself. I know that LSU's had fun in the bins before a couple times in a semifinal and in an SEC championship in the same season. So Georgia's got the same chance to do that this year. We'll see if LSU has something to say about it. Thank you, Shay.
Good. Thanks, boys. I appreciate y'all having me on.
All right. Shay Dixon. Jake, thanks for setting that up. Good to have a little bit of a live presence from the other side of things. And Shay did a pretty good job. He held his own and felt like he was pretty fair. But I think maybe some eye openers in there for Georgia fans that aren't necessarily expecting LSU to be too much of a threat across the board. I think they got some things. I think they got some things they can use on the Dogs.
I'm just surprised he was on such good behavior. You know, I've hung out with Shay some late nights in Nashville.
Should we call him back in like 4 hours?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think he's probably pretty good on a weeknight, but you know, he'll get the smelling salts out in Nashville about 1 a.m, and you know, we'll go ahead and take it. We'll go ahead and take it to 1:30. Because I live 30 minutes at a time on a night like that. But no, he's awesome. And, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Wes. The symmetry of this whole thing. Palmer would love it. Palmer's obsessed with symmetry. He's Rain Man when it comes to doing things in symmetry. I work closely with Palmer. Palmer's a different cat, dude, but he's the best cat there is.
Wes, you know how much I like to be scheduled and stuff. That's the symmetry aspect.
Okay. Palmer's the youngest guy on our staff by well over 10 years, and he is by far the most organized. I mean, he may give Wes a little bit of run for his money. Mine and Wes's day to day don't blow into each other like that, but Palmer is so nuancely.
He keeps us in check, man. He keeps us in line, baby.
I can appreciate it. I wish I was that organized.
And then Jake lets me get a little loose on the road.
Yeah, we have PBRs start cracking on the drive over to Starkville, wherever you're going.
We just got to fill up the car before we leave next time.
Yeah,
that's the one thing.
We have fun. We
got to fill up the car. But no, Wes, I think you hit the nail on the head. With the whole all right, well, Georgia's trying to do the exact same thing LSU did that year, and LSU may have something to say about it. And that's what's at stake this coming week is. I know we talked on the last show and probably the show before that, different scenarios. The more I think about it, the more you just look at it for the big picture. Round one of the college football playoff, trying to win the college football playoff and win another national championship. You want to play both of those games in Atlanta. Are you worried about your team maybe getting bored? Yeah, but you hope that you've got to lean on your leadership and your ability to get ready to play for a national title or to play for a playoff game. But playing those two games in Atlanta is a massive advantage for Georgia because it's a massive advantage they may really need to take care of because they might end up playing USC in USC's hometown for the national championship. So that's something to keep an eye on too. Because I got to looking at resumes today.
You were going in on the resumes. Let me dig up your tweet here.
Ooh. I mean, guys, Michigan's resume kind of sucks. So does TCU's.
I want to get in on Michigan.
TCU's resume really sucks.
Look, I addressed it in the weekly thing I write called Bloody Tuesday. I take some of the hot takes and stuff from Twitter because people are always foolish on there. And, I saw one about Michigan and Ohio State's strength of schedule. It came out before Michigan pasted the Buckeyes. But it was just saying, the SEC didn't have these great schedules and resumes because they play FCS teams. Well, let me tell you what Michigan didn't do. Michigan didn't play a Power 5 out-of-conference school on a neutral field this year. They didn't schedule them. They played Hawaii, and they played UConn. I mean, you want to say the FCS schools on Georgia's schedule makes Georgia's schedule tough, and I mean tough, like tough to look at. I'm just not seeing it, man. Georgia goes above. They go above and beyond. Yeah, they got some FCS schools on there, like every SEC school does, but it is the best conference top to bottom in the country.
They played 10 Power Fives.
The Big Ten is not that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so you look at them. Georgia has a chance. Right now it has 4 wins over college football playoff top 25 teams. Okay? It's got wins over Tennessee at number 7. It's got wins over Oregon at number 16 or 15, I believe it is. You've got South Carolina at 19 and Mississippi State at 24. If it gets a win over LSU, LSU's almost certainly going to hang into the top 25 there.
Yep.
That's 5 ranked wins for Georgia. Okay. There's no debate on who should be number 1.
And in Michigan, at least Michigan gets to play a team in its conference championship that's ranked in the top 25. Oh, wait.
No.
Purdue is not.
Right.
So
the beer makers. But, you look at that and you think, okay, well, there's Georgia. And that's all the teams that are currently ranked. I'm not talking about they were ranked back when. This is the regular season where they ranked.
Yeah.
And it's not going to change a whole lot this coming week. Well, then you look at Michigan. Michigan's got 2. Now, those 2 are 2 top 10 wins. Congratulations. You beat Ohio State. You beat Penn State, that has flown up the rankings despite getting beat to death by Michigan and beating absolutely no one. But they've flown up the rankings, whatever. So you got 2 there. 2 top 10 wins. TCU's got 2, and they're not even top 10 wins. I think they've got a number 10 where they beat Kansas State earlier this year. Am I right on that, Palmer? Did they beat Kansas State this year?
Yeah, they did. They were down double digits and eventually came back, but
they beat Texas.
They were playing a backup quarterback.
And they beat Texas, who is ranked number 20. Okay, so that's there. Well, then you got USC, who Palmer has brought this up several times, has a chance to check off the we beat everybody we played box by getting revenge against Utah, right? Well, USC has also played and beaten Oregon State. They have played and beaten UCLA, ranked. There's another one in there, Palmer, and I'm forgetting it.
Notre Dame.
That's it, Notre Dame. They've got 3 ranked wins with a chance to get 4, and again, to check off that box. I mean, at that point, hell, me personally would consider USC with the second best resume. You go to the eyeball test, maybe I do think Michigan's a little bit more of a complete team. But I would definitely have USC in that number 3 spot. And that's with saying I still think USC would probably be the best matchup for Georgia in round 1. Capture that attention, have to come all the way across the country, and you get to play them there as opposed to chancing having to play them in their own backyard.
I think you just unofficially started our chopping wood. That was pretty passionate, and I'll accept that, Jake Rowe. I'm going to chop wood.
Wood's flying everywhere.
Yeah. Wear your goggles. Lincoln Riley, you just brought him up. I'm going to chop wood about the Rose Bowl, man. And we saw Georgia play in the Rose Bowl and everything that is going on in Pasadena.
Thank God.
In the college football playoff decision. I haven't really found myself really having much of an opinion on this other than the last couple of days. It just kind of crystallized for me. And I think, look, you're the Rose Bowl. I love everything about what you got going on. It seems sacrilegious for me to say this after experiencing it and loving everything about it. But look, dude, you're either a part of this. It's like Kirby Smart says, you're either elite or you're not. And this train is not slowing down for you. It's pretty clear at this point. And that's hard for a lot of college football purists to see and experience and admit. I remember when we traveled back from the Rose Bowl, we had a shuttle from our hotel to get to the airport. There's this older couple that was sitting next to us on our shuttle. This guy had like a Letterman jacket. Every patch from every single Rose Bowl. Of course, a lot of them had Big Ten matchups and all that kind of thing. With the playoff and some of the BCS matchups, it switched and it got a little bit more diverse. But he was excited to put the Georgia patch on his jacket. It sucks if Georgia doesn't get to play in one of those again for a semifinal. If that is off the table, it's going to hurt. But I just don't see the committee really giving much of a damn. And I don't know if the rest of college football will either. And I hope that the Rose Bowl considers that and joins the party. But if it doesn't, sayonara.
You got to think, man, that there's going to be a Pac-12 push on that in such a way. A USC and even a Big Ten push with USC and UCLA to give them the opportunity to potentially play the college football playoff games in their own backyard. Like there's got to be some intervention there because they can't be this myopic. It's not like UCLA games are paying the bills, buddy. You need the Rose Bowl. You need it to be relevant in college football, and that may be like Brad Pitt said in Moneyball, adapt or die.
We got a lot of Moneyball influence in this team. Palmer, what you chopping wood about, baby?
I don't know what I'm chopping wood about, honestly.
We took his. He was going to choose ours.
No, I'll be honest. I kind of tuned y'all out. I'm finishing up hit and publish on this Georgia basketball gamer.
Look at Palmer.
This man has learned nothing from me. This dude has put the Pat podcast on the back burner for basketball.
Got to get it to green SEO. But so I'll chop. What about the Dogs matching their season? The Hoop Hounds per se, matching their season win total from last year this year. Just a quarter of the way into the campaign. So 6-2 to start the year. They wrap up a 3-game homestand on Friday. Hate to say I will not be in attendance, but plan to watch.
Nobody else is listening or watching now either because you're talking about Georgia basketball.
plan to pay.
No, our viewers are still staying strong. We're
no,
good.
no. I said I plan to watch. I plan to pay attention. And we'll be in attendance next week when they take on Georgia Tech in Atlanta. So, talking about Atlanta, talking about trips to Atlanta, and now we come full circle on this podcast.
Time is a flat circle indeed. Guys, we have a SEC championship to get ready for this week. And those don't happen all the time. It seems like Georgia is just an automatic entry into these, and maybe they are these days. I don't know what will be in store for us as college football continues to change and the SEC continues to change. I don't know. It might be a bit more difficult for Georgia to make it to this game. But as long as the Dogs are in it, it's fun. It's fun for them. It's fun for us to go. You see a lot of people that are just happy to be there. I mean, it's kind of like you see all these faces from across the country that cover the sport in this league at SEC Media Days. And if you cover Georgia these days, you have a pretty good sense that you're going to see them again. And they're going to be even happier to be back. I'm excited to be in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That crowd, everything about it. Kirby bangs the drum. He says it's the greatest environment in all of sports. And that offended a lot of World Cup fans, I think. A lot of soccer people. I know that the Masters heard that, and they're going to look the other way. They're going to pretend Kirby didn't say that, and they're not going to ban Kirby from Augusta National. But it's quite the statement to say that the SEC championship is the greatest atmosphere environment in all sports. I don't know if I would go that far, but it's pretty damn fun.
Yep. It is a lot of fun. And Mercedes-Benz Stadium, I hear people crapping on it all the time. Mercedes-Benz Stadium is a cool spot, man. It's a cool place to be. There's some cool features about it. I've been in there when there's some crappy nights outside.
The coolest
that Peach Bowl, dude. Man, I tell you what, I was Tom Sawyer the day that Georgia played Cincinnati in the Peach Bowl. I literally had my pants rolled up to my knees because it was like standing 3 inches of water everywhere.
I forgot about this.
I had a pair of Clarks. I had a pair of leather Clarks on that were totally soaked, and I had jeans on. I had to roll them up to my knees and take my socks off. I was just walking around the press box barefooted, bro.
Sounds miserable. What happened?
I was done. It was January the 1st.
What happened to you?
It was standing water the whole way into the stadium.
It was raining.
Like, I don't know if you know. Do you know, like, you park in what the old Gold Deck used to be? You walk down that thing, and there's something like on the high side up there, and that water just rolls down the high side over the sidewalk, and like there's nowhere to go. You've got to. I mean, it's like crossing a river. Basically, you're going to get a little wet, and between that and just getting straight up rained on, I was soaked. And, I had to roll the pant legs up all the way to the knees and just sitting there like Tom Sawyer, throw my shoes on, just slip them on wet and squish them to the bathroom and do all that stuff. It was a pretty wild day.
That right there unlocked a memory. I knew I had forgotten about that, but yeah, you sat there barefoot in the Mercedes-Benz press box.
There's nothing like
you might be the
Atlanta
only person
in
who has
December.
ever done that.
Yeah, probably am.
Atlanta in December is miserable. That's the worst thing about going to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's not the venue. It's not anything else. It's that whole deal. But
you know what sucks about the SEC championship game is you get out of the SEC championship game at the press box 11 o'clock, right? 11, 11:30, 10:30, whatever. It's downtown Atlanta is a madhouse. just an absolute, madhouse at that time. And so you're still looking at 2 hours getting home. Like, it's hard to get on the interstate from the stadium.
Yeah, nothing makes sense in Atlanta. The more time that's been between me and living in Atlanta, the more, and every time I go back, I feel less and less comfortable and less competent at even navigating it. But we'll navigate it. We'll figure it out. We'll be a good team, and we'll see two pretty good teams compete for a chance to win the SEC championship. For Jake Rowe and Palmer Toms, I'm Wes Blankenship. Jake Rowe has a piece up right now that I'm inviting you to go check out. It's premium, $10 for a month to read it, but it is legit info about transfer portal players that the Dogs may be looking at. And there are other premium pieces too that are definitely worth your time, but that's timely. It's topical right now. It's what everyone's wondering about. I don't think anyone on this call right now expects Georgia to be the 0 guys out of the portal team that Kirby Smart bragged about after the Tennessee win. Dogs have some names on the list. They're checking it twice. So go check it out yourself. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Comments were amazing tonight. I didn't get to highlight y'all as much as I normally do, but just know that you brought your A game, and I expected nothing less. We'll catch y'all next time after the SEC championship from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That just got me pretty excited. See you then.